Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video, as you can tell by the title, we will be talking about this extremely powerful blizzard that is incoming for a good portion of the northern plains of the United States. They will obviously be impacted with very heavy snowfall amounts, very heavy snowfall rates, and extremely strong winds. However, this system is multi-faceted, or multi-faced. It will have a lot of ice with it as well, and a lot of rain. There could be some isolated, even potentially scattered to widespread areas of severe weather along the cold front of this system on Thursday and into Friday. And behind this system, there will be a lot of cold air. So even if you're not directly impacted by the impacts from this storm, either ice, rain, or snow, you will be most likely impacted in terms of the cold air, which will be settling into a majority of the United States, impacting, obviously bringing very cool temperatures for this time of the year. I do also want to say there is going to be a hurricane across portions of Florida. There have been state of emergencies issued for several, I think up to 30 counties in Florida, and that one, I think it's Hurricane Nicole, that's what its name is. It's going to be developing and moving into Florida, and the cold front from this blizzard will be kind of picking the system up, the hurricane, and its remaining moisture, and kind of bringing it and sweeping it through the northeast, potentially dropping up to 1 to 4 inches of rain. So that's another part of this thing that we're gonna have to deal with. So yes, there's a lot of moving pieces with this system, and currently we do have this thing already making impacts, and if you will, landfall across a good portion of the western United States. The first piece of it already moved in and dropped actually quite a bit of snow across the Sierra. There were some amounts of up to a foot of snow that were reported. Notice with the previous system that was across the northwest, also some very copious amounts of snow across the Cascades right there, 25 inches plus. That is definitely significant. Notice though, we've had widespread snow with this first part of the system across Montana and Idaho, several areas, 4 or 5, even some amounts up to 8 to 12 inches. Across the Sierra Nevada, you could see there were some amounts up to 12. Assumingly, there probably were higher amounts that were unreported because of how scattered, the population is across these areas. But notice across the passes where truckers and what's not frequently pass through, we have quite a bit of snowfall reports here, and you can see that is just the first part and the kind of less concentrated part of the system, as the second piece is going to be a lot more intense. So if I were to show you the radar, I'm going to remove the overlay of all these winter advisories, so it makes it a little bit more a little easier to read. Notice that for the past 6 hours, if I play this, we can see that this first piece already, again, goes earlier on in the morning, further towards the west, and especially during the night yesterday. This thing is already gone. It's a move through. If you recall, several weeks ago, some of the models were showing that this thing might develop into its own storm across southern Canada. It will be bringing heavy snow here, but it won't be developing a system, if you will, that's at least nothing comparable to the second one. Notice we still have quite a bit of moisture streaming through Idaho and Utah. That's been going on through most of the day, into Nevada as well, and into the northern plains. There are also some scattered amounts of light snow, 1 to 2 inches. Notice those Saskatoon, Regina, Brandon, Winnipeg, you're all under the gun. Calgary, Edmonton, large Canadian, relatively cities. These will all be getting impacted by that snow, and some have been already, and some are already pretty much out of it, like Calgary. Some are just getting into it, like Brandon and Winnipeg. So that's going to continue. But the big story again is this thing. It doesn't look too impressive now, but I'll show you the weather model. In the next 2, 3, 4 hours, it will quickly start getting its action together, and especially overnight, these snowfall rates across the mountains, which are beginning to really come down across these portions of the northern Sierra. We have snowfall rates of 1 to 3 inches of snow per hour here. Notice Oroville, so Lake Oroville, getting some much needed rain there. Across Nevada, again, some lingering snow from that first wave. And again, there are the snowfall amounts from that first wave, and you can see that there were even some light snow amounts across the plains of North Dakota, South Dakota, and there into Wyoming. So as I put this forward into time now, because we want to take a look at the weather model, as this will give us a good idea of what's ahead. So again, this is what thinks the radar will look like at 7, which is when I'm recording this, and this is what it actually looks like. So you can see it's pretty good. It has that feature of that snow across central Western United States. Has that pretty well pinned down. That's broad snow band across Southern California, sorry, Southern Canada, and then the new part of the system moving into California. So yeah, it's doing a pretty good job. So hopefully, what it shows in the future is also pretty accurate and pretty on par. Notice as we push this through 11, 10, this system, you really start seeing some bright colorations of pockets of moderate to even heavy rainfall off the coast of California. We continuously see this stream of snow continue well into the night across Idaho, Montana, and Nevada. We see that broad area of snow across southern Canada push away and give way to more dry and calm weather for at least a little bit. Do note, if I were to zoom in on this, because this is just impressive, you see some of these, again, colorations, some of the cities here, which I believe San Francisco is located right here. I may be wrong, but I think that's San Francisco. Yeah, whatever cities here, you're going to be getting some pretty heavy rain overnight, and obviously as this pushes further inland and meets the cold air in the mountains, this is going to create some very, very heavy snowfall rates for, Tahoe and all the passes. There could be, again, up to 5 feet of snow with the snow that already fell. Still, though, the bulk of it will be falling in the next few days. Notice as this thing streams in, it's going to be leaving, again, a lot of snow. Do note across further up north, it kind of calms down the weather pattern, if you will. We could see some stray showers and storms developing across the Midwest as these winds turn southerly and pump in a lot of warm air, yet again setting the stage for not only the system to develop once it reaches the plains and strengthen, but also the severe weather, which could be pretty potent. So hopefully not as potent as last time, but with such a system, it's better not to underestimate the kind of level of severe weather. And notice with this thing, this precipitation doesn't stop across Southern California or Central California. It makes its way well into Southern California. You can see some decent snowfall into the Southern Sierra, decent rainfall as well, and you can see that once this system, even once it's already across kind of Oregon into Idaho, into Utah, Montana, you can see those snowfall amounts picking up again, or sorry, those snowfall rates. We still will have showers and storms streaming in here, occasionally causing some rumbles of thunder near the coastlines. I wouldn't be surprised with that, and obviously once that warm, moist air hits the mountains, potentially extracting a little bit of more snow from that. But notice, cities like Salt Lake City, you'll start getting impacted by this system as early as Wednesday morning. And again, that's really early in the morning, but by the time you're waking up, 7, 8, 9, this thing is going to be there, and actually, potentially almost at this point, it's way out. So again, just through this time frame of 48 hours, which I can't really show you more beyond this because this is a short range model, and this is just kind of the first phase of the second part across the western United States. Some of these snowfall amounts are going to be, again, pretty insane, especially across the Sierra. I would not be surprised to see, again, amounts of 48 inches plus in the next few, I guess in the next few days here. And across Nevada, Utah, Wyoming, this thing does quicken its speed, but still very impressive amounts, especially where that fetch of snow sets up, where we're currently seeing it right here. There could be some decent, to say the least, snowfall amounts. That includes, cities like Idaho Falls, Pocatello, and whatnot. So obviously, for the exact details, go to your local National Weather Service, because I can't give a direct forecast for your city, as, I'm tracking the whole system, which is going from coast to coast, so I can't spend too much time on each individual city. Let's now switch to a different model that goes a bit further out, like the GFS. So again, here we are at that phase of that storm. You can see it's delivering showers and snow across the west, right? Showers, I would just say steady precipitation, heavy precipitation. And now by Wednesday in the afternoon, this is what this current situation looks like. So we have very strong winds pumping in air from the south. We have Hurricane Nicole about to make landfall across Florida. We have a lot of things going on, to say the least. Severe weather for now is not really a concern. There could be some stronger storms across the warm front, but the bigger concern is a cold front once the system enters the plains. So again, a lot of these areas, while this system is still across the west, anywhere east of the Mississippi, I should say east of the Rockies, will be dealing with very, very unseasonably warm temperatures. And to better visualize this, I'll show you just anomalies, which shows us how above average a area is for the current time of the year. And you can see all those oranges indicating, portions of Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri, Minnesota, Wisconsin, all well above average, reaching the 20 degrees above average But if you look towards the north across Alberta, Manitoba, and Montana, we also see ridiculous cold of the same magnitude. So, this is always a little bit uncomfortable because when you see these conflicting air masses, you always see nasty storms in terms of, the whole system, and also an increased chance for severe weather. So those storms as well, thunderstorms. So that is definitely something why the severe weather potential is, again, running concerningly high. Notice as this thing moves out, which is again now early Thursday, it begins again by developing a very broad and profound cold, warm front. Again, Hurricane Nicole is when it made landfall. It's relatively quick moving. Again, for hurricane, relatively, it's not stalling out like some did in the past. So the rainfall amounts are going to be significant, but not life-threatening. The winds, again, around a Category 1, so not too devastating. Definitely don't underestimate a Category 1 hurricane. And do note that across the plains, we start seeing snow spread across the Dakotas. So, a lot of snow for you guys. Where exactly this band of ice sets up is still a bit under question as we get, within 24 to 36 hours away from this system, which again, now we're closer to 60 to 70 hours away. We'll begin to hone in on the details, but it's just too early to tell. But where that does set up, there could be some significant icing going on. And notice that here is where we could have some nasty severe weather. It may not look like it on the radar here or on the simulated average precipitation rate, but there definitely will be, as the dynamics of this system are impressive. The cold air, warm air colliding, and I'll show you what the Storm Prediction Center says in just a minute. Notice by noon Thursday, it's already an impressive system, but this continues intensifying, shoves a lot of moisture back into this cold air, very strong winds, so blizzard conditions, if not just a widespread blizzard, is very likely for a good portion of North Dakota, if not all of it. South Dakota as well. Again, there are going to be areas, depending on this track, in South Dakota that don't see snow at all, versus some areas further north and west where you see several, potentially up to even 2 feet of snow. And notice that once this thing does intensify and peak at 989 millibars, the winds continue. They're very strong, but we do start seeing this thing kind of fall apart. So we see the snow precipitation rate to weaken. Still, the Arrowhead of Minnesota, if you start off with ice, you will eventually transition over to some snow. Into Ontario, some snow. Ice, again, remaining here across southern Canada. This cold front right here definitely could be causing some showers and, again, potentially severe weather. Notice as this system, as I mentioned earlier, makes its way towards the east, it picks up the remaining moisture from Hurricane Nicole, which could be making a double landfall. I don't think it would be a hurricane, but notice as it leaves Florida, it gets back into the Gulf of Mexico and then potentially makes another landfall on a panhandle. So that's definitely something to watch. Again, it would be a much weaker storm. I doubt it would be a Category 1. Could still be a tropical storm or, at least a tropical depression. And also just a ton of rain for the hilly areas here of the Appalachian could be causing some flooding issues. And notice this thing all slugs up the northeast coast, kind of being shoved out of the area by this cold front. So a lot of rain for the northeast, even more than previously thought. Again, I've been talking about this for the past several days, and it looks as if, over the past day especially, a lot of this has exaggerated or intensified these rainfall rates and how far inland this is forecasted to occur. So yes, that could definitely be a concern. Again, whether or not you're dry or not, such strong and heavy rain amounts are going to cause flooding, pretty much not depending. It doesn't matter if you're dry or wet, it's going to cause some issues at such high magnitude. Notice, as I mentioned earlier, behind this system, a lot of cold air moves in. The previous storms we saw did not do that. They didn't see that cold air settle in because we constantly had new systems coming in and kind of bouncing away that cold air and bringing in new shots of warm air. This one, again, it brings in a lot of cold air, stirs up the lake effect. So a lot of cities that are on, typically in the lake effect snow belts, get prepared for some lake effect. It's definitely going to happen. There could even be some signs that this could be a pretty legendary event for some areas, especially Erie and Ontario off of those lakes. And do note that as we push this forward, the cold air may weaken in terms of its magnitude, but it still stays chilly. And it goes pretty far to the south, as indicated by some of these colors here across Texas, showing some blues. Again, whether or not that happens is a bit of a, a question mark. But I just want to show you that in the future, you could see this cold air continues to maintain itself here and actually potentially intensifies into a very, very cold air mass. through probably at least maybe, you know, the second half of November, maybe into early December. And you can see the resistance that this pattern has is actually quite remarkable. So yeah, once that cold air moves in, I mean, a lot of these areas didn't go above the 540 line since that passing of the system, and now we're already 384 hours out, right? So that's the thing with this. Any new system that's going to come along from the south is going to be bringing some snow, most likely to areas way further south because of, well, the cold air that's in place. I don't know how well you could see that cold air that was in place following that system. So let me just quickly show you the 2 meter temperature anomaly. I know I don't want to focus too much on a cold air, but that's definitely something that will be impacting a lot more people indirectly. Again, out ahead of this, very warm temperatures, but that's going to be, again, quickly whipped out of here by that cold, and especially with such a prolific snowpack across the northern plains here and into southern Canada. This cold air is going to kind of have like a highway, which it could run along. You know, the snow is going to be very reflective, so very easy for this cold air to make its way pretty far south. And you can see that it seems as if almost all of the United States will be below average for at least a good portion of the time, even, you know, cities like, or states like Florida. And again, this thing is stubborn. We will have reinforcing shots. This one is potentially also even more concerning. Around the November 18th, 19th time frame, there could be you know, anomalies that are definitely getting towards some just dangerous cold. If you're exposed for more than 10 to 15 minutes with you know, limited protection, you could definitely start getting some frostbite. Even though it is November, you know, the cold, especially under such magnitude of anomalies, could get significant. So, you know, the 2 meter temperature shaded for some of these areas are going to be very, very chilly, the actual thermometer reading. Okay, that's just one model. I do want to show you the total snowfall. I kind of got caught off guard there, or a bit carried away, I should say, with some of this, you know, the cold air. But again, the west, prolific amounts, especially for the Sierra, where this thing initially makes landfall. Notice, though, it will be producing a lot of snow for the plains into Minnesota, you know, North Dakota as well. Again, where exactly this sets up is still a little bit of a question mark, but also pretty significant amounts of snow for southern Canada, Ontario, and Quebec. Not really the big cities, though you could get impacted by some lake effect. And in terms of the rainfall, you're going to see, obviously, the west and northern plains are going to pick up quite a bit of that liquid precip. Even though this will be falling in the form of snow, it still shows that in the form of a liquid. But really what catches the eye is the northeast, which again could be experiencing amounts of up to 6-7 inches in some areas locally, if not even more, especially across Florida, obviously, where that system makes landfall. Let's go look at a different model on pivotalweather.com. This is a European model, very good model. Again, here's that system making landfall. Here's that second piece, or first piece. Here's that second one moving in. That one really, you know, puts up quite a show across a good portion of the southwest. It quickly, relatively, moves out of the plains and it plows into the plains. Here it intensifies again. Here's that cold front that could have that severe weather. Here's Hurricane Nicole, which will be most likely making landfall as a Category 1 hurricane on Florida, the eastern coast of Florida. And you can see the European also showing a massive system, very strong winds, most likely blizzard conditions, powerful cold front there, most likely across the plains, at least initially across Iowa and Minnesota. And then, just like the other model, the cold front of this system swoops up the moisture from this hurricane and brings it across the northeast coast, producing some, again, pretty significant rainfall. And then again, the cold air settles in, and you know, we have another system that could be moving into California, much weaker than the one we're seeing now. But whether or not, you know, this develops and mixes in with some moisture from the Gulf of Mexico, you can see the European tries showing some sort of a system maybe developing, more of a snowy system, but it doesn't really fully materialize. Again, the models are showing something around this time frame. They have been for a while. Whether or not it's going to be a big system, just a little bit of a kind of a weaker storm, and mainly the cold air will be the big story, it remains to be seen. But it does appear that the cold air is consistent with almost all the models. If I were to show you, you know, the last few slides of the European, you will see the deep contrast. I mean, compared to what we're seeing now across the plains here. Look at this cold here. That's going to come in, maybe not to the same magnitude. You know, you're not going to be seeing negatives most likely across Illinois or Indiana, but you're going to be seeing the coldest air of the season. You can see 20s, most likely teens as well, especially if there were to be some sort of a system to occur and drop a little bit of snow across these areas. You know, the cold temperatures would really be exaggerated by that. But yes, if you live across the plains, expect, you know, pretty much as cold as it can get for this time of the year across these areas. Again, thankfully this is November, because in January this type of cold would be, yeah, just downright dangerous. And I do believe that could happen this year. La Nina years are notorious for that, and the last 2 years have been consistent with such cold across the northern plains. Again, how far south it gets this year, that's a big question. All right, I'm getting carried away again. Let's take a look at the total precipitation from the European model. Let's leave it at 168. This encompasses, again, the three-part of the system, 3 parts of it. One across the west. Here's that second show across the plains with that icing, with that snow and that severe weather potential. And then the northeast, again, the European, consistent with the GFS, showing a lot of precipitation for those areas in the form of rain. In terms of snowfall now, so again, this is going to just show just the snow, obviously. You could see prolific amounts across the Sierra. Again, 2, 3, 4 localized amounts of 5 feet of snow with the snow that's already fallen. The lake effect belts potentially dropping quite a bit of snow. Lake Erie. I guess the city of Erie could be picking up quite a bit. Cleveland, maybe into Buffalo as well, maybe Syracuse, Rochester. We'll have to be waiting and see for that, but there could be some pretty good fetches there, and obviously the plains picking up some ridiculous amounts of snow if this were to materialize. Potentially, 20, 30 inches plus, and I wouldn't say 30, but 20 inches plus potentially across some of these areas localized. And yeah, incredible system. Canadian model, if you recall, was the one that kind of disagreed with the other ones, though it, at this point as well has kind of transitioned to more of a impressive system here. You can see showing quite a bit of snow here, and it too does show quite a bit of rainfall across the northeast from that system, that tropical system, bringing that moisture along with it. And you can see localized amounts of, again, probably 4 or 5 inches, if not even more, across those areas. So yeah, there's a lot of moving pieces with this. I kind of had to go fast, couldn't really focus too much on one given part because of, again, how many things there are that show across the west, the northern plains, and then eventually the northeast. But yeah, so if you live across the west, this thing's going to be imminent. It's right 24 to 48 hours out. If you live across the plains, it's going to be beginning on Thursday. I would say actually late Wednesday, Thursday, probably peaking through the day on Thursday night. Friday, it's already kind of moving out, weakening. And then across the Great Lakes, you could get avoided by a lot of it. There won't be much. The cold front will be kind of weakening at this point. So there might be a lot of, just a bit of, again, that cold air that makes a mark on your forecast. Not so much in the form of precipitation. And in the northeast, we'll be seeing a lot of that rain. So that's going to be definitely noticeable. And that's kind of, again, indirectly, but also directly combined with the system. So that is that. Let's take a look at some of the winter storm watches here that are set up across North Dakota and South Dakota. Again, they are just watches because, well, it's still a little bit away, but you can see that they're showing that some, the likelihood of moderate winter weather impacts, it's pretty large area. And again, the confidence is still just a little bit too low for this to be a warning, but, obviously prepare, monitor the forecast, prepare your vehicle, have a plan. I mean, the National Weather Service has been doing this for many years. They know exactly what to put out, so obviously listen to them. If you want to know your exact forecast in this area, go here, go on weather.gov, and you can literally click anywhere here, Bismarck, Belua, I think that's what it says, Dickinson, and it'll give you your forecast. And you can see winter storm watch in effect, and there's our highest potential impacts as of now. This could still change slightly, but the models have been thankfully consistent with this. Obviously across the Sierra Nevada, well, yeah, 1 to 4 feet of snow above 4,000 feet. This is additional snow. Again, some of these areas already did see up to a foot of snow in the past few hours or the past night. And the last part I want to show you is the severe weather, which for now, again, the next 2 days, well, Tuesday, I guess, because at this point Monday's over, there's really nothing going to be too significant. Wednesday, things start kicking up potentially across, you can see the upper plains. Again, I would not be surprised if there's at least a marginal issue here, but also where obviously Hurricane Nicole is going to be making impact. And then you can see on day 4, there is a slight, which includes a swath right here. And, I would not be too shocked to see if there could be an enhanced area of severe weather potentially there. Though, again, this system, the cold front of this thing does look pretty lackluster in a sense that it will obviously be potent when it initially develops. But after a while, it seems as if this thing will kind of run out of steam in the cold front, as it's a bit far to the north. And it seems like the moisture flow will be inadequate. But again, I tried picking a model that goes a bit further out than some of the shortest range models. And again, there's that system. Obviously, it's going to be incredibly impactful. And right there, notice, obviously, vigorous colors. So across central Iowa, eastern central Iowa, western central Iowa, sorry, just eastern Nebraska, and potentially Kansas and Missouri. The border between those two could be seeing that the brunt of that cold front. And notice that as this thing moves on, it kind of breaks apart. And the snow continues though, and you can see the NAM just through early Friday shows total snowfall amounts of 16, 19 inches plus. So definitely going to be a incredible system. And again, the winds with this are going to be also very strong. If I were to show you the MSLP and 10 meter winds, which are kind of like the surface wind estimations from these models, that are definitely estimations approaching close to 35 plus miles per hour, and with heavy snowfall rates 35 mile per hour or higher, and a reduced visibility under a certain criteria that the National Weather Service has, blizzard warnings will be issued. So that's basically all I have for you. Again, I'll be making videos throughout the next few days, but this is kind of a changing situation, so obviously keep up to date with the forecast from the National Weather Service and the National Hurricane Center if you do live across Florida. And yeah, hopefully guys are a little bit better prepared now, and I'll catch you all guys on the next episode. See ya. Bye.